Hey there, it's Alwyn, better known as the voice behind Averin, with a word from our sponsor. This session brought to you in part by Fiverr, the best place to find freelance services for your business. Whether you're in the market for commissioned art, or even script writing, which I probably should have utilized prior to recording this so I didn't have to do it 6 times, you can find on Fiverr. It's a whole world of freelance available right at your fingertips, with options for every budget. Find high-quality services at every price point, no hourly rates, and just project-based pricing. You'll find quality work done quickly, with the right freelancer to begin working on your project within minutes. Your payments are protected, every time. Always know what you'll pay up front, and your payment isn't released until you approve the work. And know that Fiverr has your back with 24/7 support. Not in the market for services, but looking to augment your own income? Fiverr is powered by freelance artists just like you. So sign up today at fiverr.com. That's Fiverr.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
Welcome to the world of Saluna.
Hello and welcome to Queers and Spears presents the Cap Creek Chronicles, a side quest series of 1v1s for our side quest campaign, Bottom Sept. Here we will explore the small town of Cap Creek on our heroes' first night together on their journeys. The night falls on the creek as the sounds of bugs and frogs sing along to the steady babbling of the creek. We find ourselves following the last of our heroes, according to the prophecy, young Freya, who, at the end of the night of a long, long day of traveling into the woods, falls deeply into their bed, exhausted for the day, and ends up falling asleep before the rest of the party. Freya, as you fall into this bed that you have been accompanied into by Thorpe, the head ranger here at Cap Creek, you find that the accommodations are very, very comfortable. You know, you're currently sleeping here in a mushroom, but as you fall into the bed, face first, and just kind of breathe out this deep sigh of, you thought this was going to at least be a somewhat decently, more simple of a journey. You weren't expecting to run into issues day one. So that bed, it feels good as you fall into it, and your eyes close, and you start to drift off into sleep. You start to feel like you are sinking into the bed as it starts to envelop you. You feel like you are floating, like you become weightless in the darkness of your eyes being closed. You can feel yourself kind of floating in this space of it's almost like you're floating in a pool of weightlessness. You feel like you can look around and you can move, but your body just doesn't because it's so comfortable where it's at right now. And as the darkness starts to kind of dissipate, you give me an insight check into the moment and see if you can figure out what's going on.
Insight check. Okay. That's a 23.
A 23. With a 23, your mind starts to begin to kind of process that you have fallen asleep. You know, there at certain points in everyone's dreaming patterns, they will recognize that they are they've started dreaming, that they've fallen asleep. It's not necessarily coming to consciousness within your dream, like you have that kind of like absolute free will, but you at least have that mindful free will because you've recognized that, oh, this isn't real in the moment, this is a dream, this is not absolute real. So as you start to come to these realizations, the darkness starts to dissipate, and you find yourself at the edge of the forest that you had just traveled into. It is, just dark, deep forests that you are starting to slowly familiarize yourself with as you go on this journey deeper into it. But this clearing is different from the one that you entered into. Go ahead and give me a perception check.
Not so lucky on that one, a 9.
A 9. So this was different enough that you are able to tell the difference. Here, you can see that as you come to this edge of trees and look into this clearing that is before you, there are trees on the other side of this clearing. So you kind of feel like this is possibly like an opening of area somewhere in the forest itself. Maybe it's somewhere you've already passed. Maybe it's somewhere you have yet to come upon. But it's a clearing here in the forest. And as you look out into the opening and you see that the sun is shining through and onto this field of wildflowers that come up about to your waist height. And it's interesting because during your entire travels from the edge of the forest to Cap Creek, the sun didn't really shine through. There were too many trees for the sun to really shine through. Here, there is actually an opening in the tree line, in the canopy, so you can see the sky and you can see the clouds and the sun. And you can feel the warmth of the rays shining down onto this bit of the earth. What would you like to do?
I think Freya is looking around kind of amazed and is like, well, this is interesting. Didn't see this before. This is it's a dream. I know that. But where am I? He's kind of asking out loud as he's like wading through these wildflowers.
Mm-hmm. You start to kind of like take some like absent-minded steps forwards as you start to kind of like process what is kind of happening, wading through the flowers, letting your hands kind of touch the tops of these flowers as you passed by. Go ahead and give me another perception check as you kind of like start to take some steps into this clearing.
14.
14. So as you're starting to kind of like step out and look around and everything, you just kind of notice that like this clearing isn't super big. I would say it's probably about maybe half the size of like maybe a football field or so. It's kind of just a little small pocket. This isn't something that you would recognize from the small number of times that you managed to get outside of the walls and make a dead sprint for Puppet just to get a breath of fresh air and see something new in your life. But so this isn't something you recognize from those small times that you went out. You feel like this is probably kind of maybe further along your journey, maybe somewhere you have not been before. You're kind of looking around and you kind of notice that about halfway into the field, you see some of the wildflowers, like the area in which they are kind of sprouting from. It looks like the flowers have been like crushed down, and there's like areas of like patches of wild that aren't growing up like the rest of them.
I think he would make his way over, because that almost to him looks like maybe somebody has been there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it makes perfect sense. Do you want to? How do you want to approach? Do you want to approach normally? Do you want to approach quickly? Do you want to approach stealthily?
I think he doesn't feel threatened in this moment, so I think he just walks up normally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a dream. The worst thing that can happen is you're gonna wake up.
Yeah.
So you walk up kind of normally, and as you start to approach, you do start to hear some sounds. You start to kind of hear some like chuffs and some snorts, along with some like small like laughter. Kind of like in between, you hear somebody saying like, "Stop, Indy, stop."
Hello?
It suddenly goes quiet. You stop hearing the little like laughing and the like teasing that's going on.
You don't have to be afraid. If anything, I feel I should be the one that is afraid.
And as you say that, you are looking kind of above the hedge line at about maybe a 10-foot distance from where the like impact into the wildflowers is. And as you're kind of looking above the headline, you didn't quite notice that coming underneath the cover of the wildflowers, moving stealthily, there's now a large creature at your feet, still underneath the line of the wildflowers, but you can clearly see this large drake down at the bottom, kind of crouched down on all fours, looking up at you with big black eyes.
I don't think Freya reacts. I think he stands there and I think he actually crouches down to be face to face with it.
You crouch down to be face to face with it. Go ahead and give me an animal handling check.
Okay. An 8.
An 8. You
A
get
confident
down
8.
face to face with this large creature, something that you haven't necessarily seen, outside the walls or inside the walls for that matter. You get down face to face with this creature. It takes about a half step back and kind of like shows its teeth at you. It doesn't make any like noises or even like threatening like changes in its like body position or anything. It feels like it's just kind of like taking a half step back. And as it does, you hear finally a voice, that voice again that was once laughing, that was once talking at, somebody by the name of Indy. You finally see the top of this person appear out from the wildflowers. They pop their head up. They don't come up as high as you do out of these wildflowers. Stand at about 5'9". They have dark blue fur all over their body with pointed ears and specks of starlight that catch the sun's gaze as it peeks through this canopy. And they look at you with bright yellow eyes and smile. They approach to the large drake, coming up to its side, running their hand up the scaly body, past the wings, and up to behind the ear of this drake, kind of scratching it. You can see this creature immediately relax and kind of like flop down. And you see the person is like, there, Indy. He seems like a friend.
I think at that statement, Freya is immediately flushed. I don't think it has anything to do with the looks of this person. I think he's flushed purely just from the tone of voice, and the use of the word friend.
So do you want to attempt to hide this in any way? Do you feel like you would let your emotions flow freely in this moment?
I don't think Freya knows it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a natural occurrence that he doesn't have time to stop or hide.
Mm-hmm. So he, let me see. They look at you, and you kind of like watch their eyes kind of like scan you a little bit. They kind of like dash back and forth a little bit from like top to like chest, just kind of inspecting you and seeing, seeing the threat level here, and also just kind of like double checking their words of calling you friends in a way. And as they kind of get back up to your face, which is turning bright red at the moment underneath your patches of gray fur, they smile at you, a full-hearted and genuine smile that shows off dimples on both of their cheeks. Their eyes squint a little bit as they smile. They tilt their head slightly to the side. They kind of just like rest their like head on their hand a little bit. And they're like, yeah, I think he's a friend. And he looks to you, and they're like, come walk with me in the sun.
I think Freya, as soon as they like look like more at him, and that smile flashes, Freya's eyes are immediately on the ground. His heart is kind of racing. Like he's had this kind of feeling towards somebody before, but never allowed himself to experience it as soon as he kind of like met somebody that he felt this way. He just was brought back to the castle, and by the time he was able to get out again, he couldn't find the person. But I think his legs have a mind of their own, and they start moving forward.
They kind of just walk just a few paces in front of you, noticing that your gaze is down on the floor and not up looking at the surroundings or so, just so that you can continue to follow them. They only walk, about 20 or 30 paces or so, just to a fresh patch of wildflowers before they turn to the drake at their side, and with a slight little nod of their head, the dragon starts prancing and dancing and rolling around in this fresh grass, like rolling in their back and kind of getting it all over their body, like jumping up as high as they can and landing on all 4 feet, like kind of smashing these things into the ground and like truly having the time of their life. As the person standing next to you is like kind of like laughing and like watching their companion just have truly a moment of like puppy energy released in this creature.
Yeah. I think in these moments, hearing like that, the laughter itself, if they weren't covered by longer fur, you would see that the blush had traveled from his cheekbones up to the tip of his ears. And now he's kind of watching instead of like watching the ground. He's kind of, because he doesn't have this type of relationship with like Beater. Beater's more of like a animal that just kind of like hangs out with him and sometimes listens to him. Where this is like a true companionship and like friendship that I don't think Freya understands.
So as you kind of like begin to like look around as well as like process the relationship that these two, have and how far it goes and how it compares to how you feel about your own small creature friend, they kind of look over to you and they ask you, they're like, have you been this far before?
I don't know where we are.
That's okay. We're not very far.
Far from where?
I'll show you. And they quickly grab your hand and they dart over to the tree line, which isn't too far from you, about 20 feet, just to the closest and nearest tree. And you see them begin to basically usher you up the tree. Go ahead and give me acrobatics checks. We're going to go ahead and do 2 of them. So first one, he succeeds. So you watch as they just kind of like quickly come up to this tree and they're like, come on. And they just like grip this tree and climb this tree.
First one's a 23.
23. You take a second to like process the fact like, okay, they just asked me to climb a tree. Let's go ahead and do this. You immediately just start following after them with ease. Immediately, you actually end up catching up to their point as well, kind of closing the distance between you two. And then go ahead and give me a 19.
Yeah.
And then oh my god, they rolled exactly the same. So on the second half of the journey, you end up climbing the tree together in tandem.
Wait, actually, no. It's a 15 on the die, but due to my level 1 ability of the Channeler class, it's actually a 20. Because I get a +1 from my aura.
Incredible. Yeah, so you all just start to, like, you climb together towards the tops of this tree, and for the first time in Freya's life, you look upon a sea of green. Nothing but the tops of canopies with just small indentations where there are possibly other areas that are like clearings like the one that you are in. Very few and far between, and it seems like the one that you're currently in is the largest among them all. And as you kind of like look out onto the horizon of this sea of green, you can see a city in the distance, very tall and surrounded by a wall similar to your own home city, but taller walls, gray walls, not quite as limestone, as sandy as the one of Lenloch, because they've been like battered by the sea breeze. These ones are a little bit more landlocked, more gray, and tall buildings in the future. And they point out and they're like, that's my home.
But what is this place?
These are the wilds. And that over there, my home, that's Dornwich.
Would Freya recognize that name?
Give me a history check.
Okay. Dirty 20.
Dirty 20. Having a royal upbringing, even though you are not the crowned prince, you would still be expected to know of the major cities here on the island of Suntura. So you would be familiar with the city of Aramur, from which Oriana is from. It is a city that is southern to you and kind of handles a lot of the like farming aspects and kind of the like transportation of like goods across the islands. You know of your own Lenloch, which is very central and also right near the sea. You kind of control a lot of the fishing and the transportation of like those goods and services. Dornwich is the next major city north. It is the major city that lands directly in between Lenloch and Cald. You would know that it is directly in your line, in your path on the journey that you are currently on. It is not a place you have ever visited, but you know that your father has been there before, but he rarely goes there.
Would my mother have been there?
She probably would have been there before. It probably would have been closer to the time of the Great War 200 years ago that she was last even close to Dornwich. But she probably did set foot in Dornwich, but it was more than likely 200 years ago.
And Dornwich is on the Sunmore side, not the puppet side, correct?
It's on the puppet side.
Freya looks at this person before him and goes, so, well, you aren't just a figment of my imagination. Or
I don't think I am. I don't feel like I am.
I have only seen you in dreams. So,
Well,
where
are you from?
Lenloch.
I've never been to Lenloch.
It's not what it could be.
But it's different than my own home. My father won't let me leave my city walls. If he ever found out if I was out here, I would surely get it.
I think Freya's in disbelief at that statement.
Yeah,
And
it's
he
very similar to your own situation.
just goes, I understand that. But
But it's nice to get away when he's distracted.
when you have a drunkard of a father, it's easy to get away.
He, they just kind of like look over to you. Do you meet their gaze?
I think Freya was looking out upon the trees and not even looking towards them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Freya's hiding how he's feeling when he says that.
They look over to you. If you choose to look over, you feel that their eyes have shifted from the endless horizon of the canopies before you to you, looking up to you. And they place a hand on your shoulder and kind of like softly like pet it and rub it a little bit, and they're like, I'm so sorry. That sounds like a really rough position to be in, and having your father be an alcoholic, I'm sure it wasn't great for you or your family.
I wouldn't be the man I am today if he was any different. It's not a sad story, it is just the humble beginning of a hero.
And without looking away, they're still looking at you. They say, and what kind of man could you become if you only knew love?
That is a question I don't know I'll ever find the answer to. But that's okay. As that's just not what my story is meant to be, perhaps.
Everyone has ideas of what our stories should be. Our parents thinking what's best for us, or knowing what we should or shouldn't be doing in life. And yes, they may have experience, but they don't know our story, and they can't predict or write the future. That's our jobs. And if you cut yourself off from the possibility of expansion, from the possibility of growth, from the possibility of love, how can you expect to be great if you're stuck?
I feel at this point when they're saying that Freya is playing with the pendant of Kaivalya that he has around his neck that he had an extra one of after giving Felix his. And he laughs and goes, "You sound like an old friend." It's comforting.
They kind of chuckle, and then they're like, your friend sounds pretty smart then. And then they kind of like laugh and give you a little bit of an elbow into your side. Give me a dexterity saving throw.
Oh, God. Hang on. +4. Oh, that's a 10.
A 10. That's enough. You kind of like wobble back a little bit, and they reach out and they kind of grab the. Are you wearing your arm? Do you feel like Freya would be wearing their armor in their sleep, in their dream sense?
Freya does not wear armor, so
Interesting. So they would grab then the collar of your shirt before you fell and pull you back in to them. They would then put their arm around your waist and be like, whoops. Sorry, that's my bad.
I think
Let's get down. And they just kind of like quickly like move their arm like from like the wrapping around your waist to like the side of your waist as they start to kind of like then climb down, moving using both of their hands again.
I think Freya allows them to get a little bit further away so they perhaps don't hear this. And he kind of like pats himself and straightens out his like vest and everything and goes, Kaivalia, give me strength. And goes down the tree after him.
Amazing. So on the way down, just go ahead and give me one acrobatics check on the way down.
Cool.
To come down
That's
a lot faster
a
than you
23.
23. You jump from branch to branch, kind of sliding down the tree trunk as you hear the like laughter of this person who you don't even know their name, but they've encapsulated and they've like drawn you in with just their spirit, just their laugh, and just their sense of amazement and wonderment at the world around you. The same amazement and wonderment that you hold within yourself as they slide down this tree, laughing along the way. They start to frolic into these wildflowers. You can see that as they start to pass through the flowers, little butterflies start to flutter up into the sky around them and up into the trees and into the sky above them. As you chase after them, they kind of like swing you around as you end up eventually catching up, and you both swing onto the floor of these wildflowers, completely surrounded in your own little bubble of floral, looking up into the sky of a world of endless possibilities.
I think it feels weird laughing and having fun to Freya. It's not unwelcomed. It's just not the norm.
Do you feel like Freya would be like smiling and laughing along as well?
100%. I think this is the first time Freya's experienced true fun. But he's also still blushing brightly.
Mm-hmm. They just seem to shine brighter, and they seem to like gleam harder at you as they turn around and see that you are also no longer this stoic person, this tepid person who was unsure of what was happening in front, or maybe just in control of their emotions, and now is just so free in this moment. They're smiling at you. They're just laying on the floor next to you, kind of like staring into the sky. They kind of like roll over onto their side and kind of like look over to you, kind of propping their head up on their like shoulder and on their hand, or elbow and their hand. And they like, so it's been, at least a half an hour now. I feel like I should maybe know your name.
Oh, right. Introductions. My name is Freya Valiance.
Freya Valiance. You are one of the princes, I presume?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I've heard about you before.
I doubt it. Father doesn't talk about me a lot. And my babbling idiot of a brother is the crown prince.
Yes, I definitely know of that one. It's glad you are not that one. And they just kind of like laugh and poke you a little bit with their finger. And they look to you. Go ahead.
I think Freya is... The Drake is still running around jumping on flowers, right?
100% still a fresh cow out on a spring field, like
So-
absolutely going bananas.
Freya's about to do something extremely terrifying, but also extremely funny.
Mm-hmm.
I think Freya gets up and he does like 10 feet of movement, but then you just see him leap forward 27 feet and tackle the Drake to the ground playfully.
Absolutely. Go ahead and give me an athletics check.
So because satyrs have mirthful leap,
Ooh.
which allows me to add a d8 to a long jump,
Nice.
and your jump is equal to your ability score, which I have a 21 now in my strength. And I rolled the d8 and got a 6 on it, which gives me 27
Incredible.
of leap, which is terrifying.
Terrifying.
But athletics check,
Yes.
that is a 21.
A 21. You start to wrestle with this Drake, and they start to playfully wrestle back with you. It is pretty much an even match, actually, as you guys are wrestling back and forth. One moment you kind of like kind of topple it over, and then you roll around in the grass, and then all of a sudden the Drake is on top of you, and you guys are kind of going back and forth. The Drake kind of like puts your like arm in its mouth, but doesn't bite down, just as like that dog thing of like, I can hurt you, but I'm not. But like totally playing with you. And after a little while, give me a perception check with disadvantage because you are currently wrestling a dragon.
That is a 15. I rolled a 13 and a 19 on the die.
Jesus, great rolls. So with a 15, after a while, you just start to see emerging from the flowers, the person, they just start to like sprint through and then like full like dive deep down onto you, like body slam the both of you as they also start to join the wrestling match. In just like gleeful exuberance, and you guys just all kind of like wrestle and like tackle each other. It seems like this is something that the Drake and the person do already together, like continuously. So it sounds like this is now a 3-party jumble. You guys all like kind of like play around and like you find yourselves being like tickled a couple of times, and you're not quite sure if it's like one of the like scales that are sticking out of like the dragon that managed to just kind of like get you at one point, or if it's the person like tickling you in one way just to like trick you. And you all just like after a couple of minutes just like stop and like are heavy breathing. After just like minutes of heavy wrestling, you need like a quick second to catch your breath. And after some deep, heavy heaving, the person like looks to you and just bursts into laughter.
I think Freya also laughs, but he goes, "So, what can I call you?"
They contain themselves with their laughter, stifling in a couple of like laughs. It takes a couple of seconds for them to like compose themselves after just a giant wrestling match, and they look at you and they say, Xander, you can call me Xander, Sore Spirit.
Sore Spirit. Sore as in a muscle, or sore as in fly?
They just kind of like smile at you. And you see the Drake kind of like comes up and nuzzles up against Xander.
Fly, got it.
We come from a long line of Drake Wardens. My father and his father before him, and his mothers and fathers before him. We all learn, and we all grow. We all are chosen by one. This is Indy. She's my best friend.
I think he digs into his like pack, even though like it's a dream, and he pulls out like a ration for Indy and feeds it to them.
Indy like wolfs it down in this dream. You like watch as it like just like it's like chomp chomp chomp, like it's like a dog getting a piece of food off of your plate, so you know it's like barely tasting it, like 2 chomps and it's down, like that fast. And they you see they like kind of like close their eyes and then open them back up at you, as you see like their like purple tongue like slip across their like silvery scales that like go across the body. This dragon is like shimmers in the light, very similar to the spots that are in Xander's fur. And Xander's like, and I know you think this is all a dream, but I don't, and I think this is a dream too, but I feel like we're gonna meet soon. Do you feel that too?
Well, I don't know what will happen. I know I'm going to meet a lot of people, but I hope only the gods know where I'll go. But I hope you're in that line.
They kind of like smile, look down a little bit, and then look back up to meet your gaze. And they're like, I'll make sure that it happens.
Well, that sounds promising. I do warn, I am traveling with my mother.
And I live with my father, so
Yes.
I
So-
think we might be able to find a way to sneak away.
You said that Indy chose you.
Yes.
Is it possible for any animal to choose a person?
It's possible. I've seen many animals align themselves with certain humans, possibly because of magical influence or just very good cooking skills. But I see it as, yes, of course. I feel like you can befriend any animal, and if they choose to follow you, I feel like of that animal's intentions, if it is to leave its home of the wilds to live with you, I feel like that is friendship. That is being chosen.
Yes. I agree. But Indy listens to you. I guess I mean, you're a Drake Warden, so it
Yeah.
makes sense that Vito doesn't listen to me like that.
He Viter, and as he like says Viter's name out loud, Viter pokes his head up out of your shirt, climbs down your arm, and heads over to Xander.
Yes, this is Sniviter. It means pure white snow. I found him the first time I came to Puppet.
He chuckles a little bit and puts their hands to the floor, and Vither climbs up onto their hand and brings it up to their face, and he's like, "Hello there, little Vither. You've got a little bit of blood in your snow skin," and chuckles and kind of like boops the nose. You can see that Vither is, unlike something you have seen, you haven't had Vither for very long, just a couple of months, but Vither is much more well-behaved for Xander, a person they just met, than he ever is for you.
You little shit.
They turn around and you see them kind of like crinkle their nose at you. That Vither like crinkles their nose at you a little bit, and then goes back and kind of like nuzzles up into like Xander's like dark navy blue like hair that is in this like shaggy mullet cut, and just kind of sits atop their head, so nice, and like just comes down to about an inch above their shoulder. And you see that they kind of like nuzzle up into Vither, and he's like, "Oh, Vither just says like it's just gonna take some time. You know, you guys have just become friends."
You can talk to him?
Yes, I can talk to them. I can talk to most animals. I'm sure that definitely helps with the bonding.
Yes. I feel that would make things a lot easier.
Absolutely. It does definitely cause way less communication error. And then you kind of like see Xander like look at Vither and then start speaking to Vither in a language you don't understand. And you don't understand it because it is Vither's language. And they just have a small kind of like conversation, and you see that Xander's kind of like brings his finger up a couple of times, and a few times also kind of like points to you and like points like two eyes at Vither, and then put the two fingers back at you. You see Vither kind of like look back a little bit, and then like look back at Xander and kind of like nod, and Vither then is placed down on the ground, comes back over to you, and climbs up onto your shoulder and nuzzles in.
I think Freya kind of like scratches behind his ear like he usually does, and looks at Xander and goes, "Not to be nosy, but what? Okay, I want to know what you talked about."
They just kind of like chuckle at you, and they just kind of like look at you in a way of just like, you know, like, you nosy, like, you just gotta know, don't you? Like this like playful kind of way. They chuckle and they're like, "I just told him that if he expects the respect that he wants, he needs to give it. And that if Freya wants a friendship and he wants a friendship, that you both need to act towards it so that it can grow." He's just stubborn, that's all.
He's stubborn. I don't know what friendship really is, so that makes sense that I would fuck that up.
Well, you haven't fucked up anything. Vither likes you very, very much.
Well, I did give him meat when I first met him, so...
And he very much loves meat and scritches behind the ear. So you're doing a great job. So that's one friend already. And
yeah.
I consider you a friend. Do you consider me a friend?
Yes.
Good. Then you're not fucking up. Everything's great.
I have one more question.
Shoot.
Do you know anything about the Welker Darks?
The Welker Darks. Yes, I know a little bit. I know that they are a very small family. They are like ambassadors for one of these smaller kingdoms here on Suntura. And that Spring Welter Dark, and a couple of younger children, they live out in the forest in their own little space. Spring and Woe will sometimes attend some of our meetings. They will also attend some important events, but they never really stick around for long. They are very, they enjoy the presence of their home.
So, do you have an idea of how I could make traveling with us feel more like home for Woe?
Well, I would ask her how she feels about this forest compared to hers. She lives in a forest. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the same forest. Talk to her about the forest, the flowers, the creatures.
Can you tell me about them so that I have correct information to talk with her?
They laugh a little bit. They're like, yes, I'll tell you anything you want to know.
What is your favorite flower?
My favorite flower? My favorite flower. And they reach down next to them and pull a little purple flower that sits upon a long stem. And they're like, these flowers, the ones around us, these little purple ones, these little white ones, they grow without purpose. They grow because no one told them to. They grow because they want to. These are my favorites.
Okay.
And what about yours, Ardflaith?
I think Freya... I think this is the first time in the conversation you see Freya go blank. I think Freya's life has always been preparing, God forbid he had to take over for the throne, and proving he was worth it, and didn't really have time to focus on him or his favorites. And I think he kind of just shrugs a little.
And Xander kind of looks at you, and you see kind of like a understanding, empathetic nod. Not a sympathetic one, an empathetic one. And they kind of like reach out to you, kind of move a piece of your ginger hair out of your eyes and around your horn to kind of get a better look at you, your whole face. And they're like, I hope you find it on your journey to me so that you have an answer next time.
I think Xander feels the heat rise to his skin as his cheeks and ears turn bright pink from that, and he smiles and looks down and nods and goes, "Perhaps Woe can help me with that."
I think she's the perfect one to ask. And then Xander kind of like looks up to the sky. You also notice it in this moment that it's starting to get darker, like on a setting. And they say, "This is always my least favorite part.
Waking up.
Going back to reality."
Well, hopefully our paths cross soon.
I know they will. They kind of move their hand over to yours and place it on top of yours.
And I think Freya kind of picks it up, and while reading the situation, he kisses the knuckles of Xander's hand and flops back to wake up in his bed.
You kiss the knuckles of Xander, and they return the favor, kissing your knuckles as well. And as the darkness starts to creep over the sky and around your peripheral vision, feeling yourself start to become heavier in this moment, the weightlessness is starting to fade. And the last words you hear as your vision starts to get closer and closer to black, staring at Xander so you can get his face for as long as you can. He says, "I'll see you soon, Ard Flaith." And you wake up the next morning. And this is where we are going to end this 1v1.
Ah!
So exciting!
I loved every second of that.
It was way too good. I love it. Ugh.
Oh, my boy.
It's so great. Look at you feeling feelings like without reason now. I'm here for it. Oh my goodness. Why don't you go ahead and do our outro for this one? Because this is Sunday's Child. Go ahead and take it away, because this is our last 1v1 of our little series. Thank you all so much for listening as well. I truly, truly appreciate it from the bottom of my nasty little game master heart.
Yes. Thank you everybody for listening to all of our Cap Creek Chronicles. Join us every Friday for a new episode of Bottom Sept. Cannot wait to see where this series takes us and what we do with it. It is always lovely to have CJ here as a player or as a DM. I will always love being a player in anything that CJ puts together. We, at this point, I believe I will have announced. I believe we announced season 2 already. Actually, I think I announced it at the end of the first episode of Bottom Sept. So we will be back in the summer for our second main campaign, which we will be posting hints and stuff soon, and an announcement with a title. So pay attention to that. We have some excellent guest stars lined up. And pay attention for when I start posting the story of Before, because as of right now, we only have one more episode to record before that series is done.
Ooh, so exciting.
and that will all be posted in 1 week. Like as soon as they're done, I will be posting all those episodes in order in 1 week. So 5 days, all new episodes, which means that Friday will be a new episode of Bottom Sept and a new episode of The Story Before, which will be the ascension of all of our gods. I've recorded all the one-on-ones for those, and I'm so excited to showcase them to you guys. All of our players are amazing. Valiant Dorian does an amazing job as Nuna. Wesselhausen does an amazing job as Nylila. Connor Kerrigan is the perfect Zeldris. And the lovely Mick, or known as Radical Slinky, is our beloved Kaisis. And of course, I'm the world and everybody else, as usual. So I can't wait for you guys to experience the emotions that we put through that. You can catch us on TikTok, Instagram, even we have a Facebook page that really isn't used, but you can catch us there. All of it is QNS World of Saluna. Twitter also, duh. That's at Queers and Spears. Check out other TTRPGs, not just D&D, because TTRPGs are great to do with all of your friends.
Yes.
I will always plug playing TTRPGs with friends. Who knows, you may see new systems on our podcast at some point. And also check out The Beast Within, which is Valiant Dorian's TTRPG that they are making. That was 100% crowdfunded, so they are starting to work on that. And even though they don't listen, I want to shout out Transplanar RPG, because they are great, and that's where I found some of our guest stars for season 2. Valiant Dorian being one of them.
Incredible.
And we will see you all soon.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.